Hello, forensic science students. I am Mr. Williams. This is going to be the last week where we're going to be discussing toxicology and drugs. Next week, we'll have finish out this week. So this week, we'll be talking about controlled substances. And controlled substances are all part of a federal law. And this law is called the Controlled Substance Act of 1970. Okay, so this law was established 51 years ago at the recording of this lecture. And so basically what it did is it classified controlled substances. And so as it classified controlled substances, it categorized them into 5 different categories. Well, they called each of these categories a schedule. So if you hear about a Schedule 1 drug, a Schedule 2 drug, a Schedule 3 drug, and so on and so forth, those are the different categories of drugs based upon the law. And so this was categorized based upon 3 things. One was the drug's potential for abuse. How likely could that would be that someone would abuse this drug? 2, the potential to be physically and psychologically addicted, their dependence on this. And 3, the medicinal value. How likely is it that this could be used for medicine, and how useful is it to do that? So let's talk about psychological dependence. So this is mental addiction, psychological addiction. Mental dependence comes in a lot of different terms. And this is basically where someone has convinced themselves that they need it mentally. And so this is the conditional use of a drug caused by the underlying emotional needs. They've just attached their emotions to it. Okay. You could say they're in love with it. Another type of addiction or dependence is physical addiction, and that's where you actually need it physically. And so the physiological need for a drug that has been brought about by its regular use. And what this means is like their body has gotten so used to having a drug that the body has altered the way that it performs and behaves and runs its systems, that when you don't have it, it can be anywhere from causing an extreme sickness to death. And so this would be called a withdrawal. And so physical dependence would be characterized by withdrawal sickness when administration of the drug has abruptly stopped. So you stop using it. An easy example of this would be caffeine. Now, people who drink coffee, if they just suddenly stop drinking coffee, they're going to experience headaches, and that would be a withdrawal of the caffeine addiction. An extreme example of this would be heroin. So if someone is addicted to heroin, if they just stopped all of a sudden, they're going to get sick. They'll be probably vomiting. They could pass out. There could be convulsions. And people who have been addicted to heroin, they need to see a doctor, which is sad because they most likely won't, because they're so addicted to heroin that that's running their life. And this is another reason why whenever you're taking prescription medications, if the doctor says, don't just stop taking this, like talk to me before you stop taking this. Like if you want to stop, if you decide you don't want to do this anymore, that's fine, just let me know. Well, that's because there could be a physical dependence on that, and just stopping abruptly could actually cause something dangerous to happen in your body. What are the 5 schedules of controlled substances? So remember, these are different classifications. So you could say classification 1, but we're talking about schedule 1, same thing. These are drugs that were considered to have high potential for abuse and addiction and considered to have no medical value. And examples of this was heroin, LSD, ecstasy, and marijuana. And so we're seeing today, and even before then, marijuana was used as medicine. Marijuana has become more potent because people have selectively bred it to produce more of certain compounds, such as THC, and less of the medicinal compounds, such as CBD and stuff like that. But we're seeing today that marijuana does have some medical value, but for the most part, people abuse it because they like to get high off of it. They didn't use it for medicinal properties. They were using it in a drug abuse kind of way. So lot of people have advocated for moving marijuana to a different schedule because I guess of its perceived medical value now. All right, Schedule 2, drugs with high potential for abuse and addiction and some medical value with restrictions, okay? And so they have PCP, cocaine, amphetamines, most of the opiates, some barbiturates, okay? Yeah, they're saying that cocaine has more medical value than marijuana here, okay? And that'd be surprising to some people. So one example of that would be if you ever had laser eye surgery, right? Like they're cutting into your eyeball. Can you imagine how much that hurts? Ouch. It just makes me tear up thinking about it. Well, they put these drops in your eyes to just completely numb your eyes, and it's some kind of cocaine derivative. I forget what it's called, but that is something that they use. And so it did have a medical value, but it is not the cocaine and crack cocaine that you think of when you think of when you think of the illegal drug use. That is not how that's used at all. Amphetamines, Adderall is an amphetamine, and yeah, methamphetamine is also an amphetamine. Most opiates, that's all your painkillers, especially the addictive ones, barbiturates. You got to be careful because those are highly addictive, and you can't just stop taking those without talking to your doctor. Not without some serious consequences. Schedules of controlled substances, including Schedule 3, drugs with less potential for abuse and addiction and currently acceptable for medical use. So that would be some barbiturates, codeine, that would be steroids. You're going to have a prescription for these things, right? Steroids, so hydrocortisol, inhalers and things like that. Codeine is like some prescription-based cough syrups. Barbiturates are just different things that kind of relax people down. Schedule 4, drugs with low potential for abuse and addiction, currently acceptable for medical use. That'd be tranquilizers like Valium. That's good for seizures. People use it for anxiety attacks. There's Xanax, Librium. And so, yeah, they're accepted for medical use, and they're saying they have a lower potential for abuse and addiction. Schedule 5 drugs, drugs with the lowest potential for abuse, medical use, and lowest potential dependency. Some opiates with non-narcotic ingredients, that'd be Zotec C syrup, Polytussin. I'm not really familiar with that, but I'm assuming that these are considered non-addictive opiates of some sort. I just don't really know much about this one. All right, so what we kind of need to know from these is we're seeing what causes these to be classified. And basically they're classified by the drug's potential for abuse, potential to be physically and psychologically dependent, and the medical value. All right, that's the big thing to know. Okay, the classes of drugs, we talked about this last week. You have hallucinogens that alter normal perceptions, thoughts, and moods, narcotics that relieve pain and cause sleep, stimulants increase alertness and activity. You have anabolic steroids, which promote tissue growth. I'm having trouble speaking. And depressants, which depress functions of the central nervous system, cause calm and bring about sleepiness. And so these were 5 classes of drugs that we talked about. We talked about a few more from the classroom reading, but let's continue. Oh, that was the end of our lecture. All right, so what I'm going to ask you is, with the drug classifications, do you agree with the drug scheduling classifications? If yes, pick a drug and explain why you agree with it. If no, pick a drug and explain how you would change the scheduling. I want to see complete sentences, proper punctuation. We capitalize the beginning of a sentence. We put punctuation at the end, okay? This is an educational environment. We're not text messaging answers. So please, please write critically and think critically, but just tell me which one of these you agree with. All right. Thank you, guys. You have a great